Freedom? To me, freedom is to be able to speak what I want, do what I want, have my religion, go to the store, buy what I want, take a vacation and drive down to Arizona without having to show a card, to travel, to do just what you want to do without somebody telling you can't do it, being controlled by the government, that you have to have a card and they check you every time you want to leave the border. I can go to, like if I want to leave here and go up to Wyoming, I'd have to show a card to get into that state. I mean, there's foreign countries over there, they control your life. Freedom is being able to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and not to have somebody tell you can't do it. Freedom is not being watched every move you make. Our time back in there, that we were more patriotic. I mean, we loved our country, we loved our flag. We'd do anything, but now they do anything to stay out of the service if they can. They run our country down. They have lost all respect for what we are and what we stand for. Well, war itself is a terrible thing. But if it is fighting for the freedoms that we have here, they don't realize what it's cost. I mean, this is from day one, the time of the ancestors came here to fight. It cost lives to get the freedoms that we have here. And it's going to take lives to keep what we got. And I would just hope and pray that the youth today will be patronized enough to know that this country means a lot. If they had traveled to other countries and live in the other countries and see how they live and what their freedoms are, they would not doubt what we have here. I was drafted. I passed my physical. The Navy wanted me. The Army wanted me. I couldn't make up my mind where I wanted to go because my parents told me not to join the Marine Corps because I had a brother in the Army, one in the Navy. And when I knew I wanted to be a Marine, they always told them to not let me join the Marine Corps. But while I was trying to make up my mind, a Marine recruiting officer, actually a sergeant, stepped in the room and he said, "I need 6 volunteers for the Marine Corps." So I raised my hand, not knowing that when I volunteered for that, I was volunteering for 4 years. My job or position, I was a machine gunner. And the machine gunner, he gives support to the platoons, where I got put in the 26th Marine Regiment, 2nd Battalion, Fox Company, where I had my choice of either being a rifleman or a machine gunner. So I chose a machine gun platoon. The average life of a machine gunner in combat is 3 minutes. And I was very fortunate. I think the Lord above was looking out after me. I got into, for the operation of Iwo Jima. We had to have the island because they were getting ready to assault Japan proper itself, and our bombers didn't have enough fuel to go to Japan and make a return trip. And Iwo Jima had two completed airfields, and the third one started. And we needed those so that our planes could stop there so they could refuel and make a round trip. But I had a number of times when I could have been gone. I was pinned down one day, and I had my machine gun cradled in my arm, and they were shooting machine guns and had me pinned down to where I couldn't move, and all of us pinned down, and they threw a mortar in. Those mortars were coming in, and I had one hit just 30 inches from my head and slide down to my waist, and it was a dud. And another day I was picking up some stones to put up to make a barrier in front of my machine gun. I picked up one and I sat it down and turned to go find some more, and no more, and got my hand off and turned and around hit the rock that I just sat down. And but I usually, when I'd use up my ammo, I'd fill the boxes with volcanic ash, and I'd set my ammo boxes in front of my machine gun for a barrier to help protect me. We had 246 men, officers and men, in our company, and we had many casualties. One day we had 57 men killed, and killed or wounded, casualties, let me put it that way. One day, and then another day we had another 57 casualties. That's almost half of our company in 2 days that we were there. We had 90 replacements to our company from a replacement battalion that came in. And when we left the island, we left with 41 men. Some of those were replacements. We had a few that had been wounded, but it wasn't severe enough to leave the island, that they came back up on the front lines. But there's 11 out of those 41 men that hadn't been wounded or killed, and I was one of those 11. Being a machine gunner, I had my machine gun shot up. I had to replace a machine gun, and I had the rounds that exploded after hitting the machine gun hit me in the face. I had one of my ammo carriers take his K-bar, that's our issued knife, to pick the flakes of shrapnel out of my cheeks so I wouldn't have to leave my machine gun. And I went start to finish. Some say 36 days and some say 39 days to secure the island. Another occasion, we were moving up to get a position to start giving support, and the Japanese started throwing some hand grenades on us. We, where we could, the ones we'd pick up and throw out, but throw back. But the one come and hit the fellow right in front of me, and instead of him trying to get rid of everything, he fell on it, took the blunt of the explosion in his stomach, and it killed him, but it saved myself and a bunch that was in front of him. And just a lot of things like that. Then the first day I got onto the island, I got dug in. We just got on, and then we had to regroup the next morning to start our advancements. We dug in for the night, and they was throwing airbursts on us. That's when they shoot the mortars, and then they go off up in the air, and then they'll shrapnel sprays down on the ground and get whoever's down there. And I was sitting in my foxhole, and I had a shrapnel that was about 10 inches long, and needle point on the end. Widest point was probably 3/4 of an inch. And it lit just between my legs, just 2 inches in from my body. And I was real fortunate there, because, I mean, if it had been this way a little bit, then it had gone right down through me. But my foxhole partner, he says, "Sid," he says, "Are you scared?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I am too." He said, "This is my 3rd operation." He said, "I'm scared also," but he said, "Don't let it get the best of you." And 3 days later, he got killed while we were laying side by side. I mean, it missed me, the round missed me, and just hit him on the forehead and came out the back of his head. And that could have been me. I mean, if it had been just 4 inches the other direction, it would have been me instead of him. And we'd set up, we'd make our foxholes for the night, and the Japanese, they knew our distance, and they'd start throwing mortars in on us. They'd be picking up foxholes, and they'd just go boom, 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 boom. Then there'd be a pause. Then it'd go boom, boom, boom. And that pause was always where my foxhole was. They skipped me, and I could never figure out why. My machine gun, because they knew it was there, but for some reason they boom, 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 and they'd skip me and go on by. And then next morning I'd see Marines all laying out of their foxholes, killed, blown out, and you'd see them during the day. Most of that was night operations, and but during the day they had you could see the boys being blown up and their limbs gone, legs and arms, just their body, and it just was a great sacrifice for a little piece of volcanic ash that we needed for our own need for our assault in Japan proper. I was just 19 years old. I was proud to serve my country, and I was glad that I was able to go there, but I could never understand why all my good buddies were being killed or wounded, and I wasn't. I could have had many chances that I could have been gone on that island. It was on the 3rd Airfield while we were sitting there for 3 days that they finally got my range. I was shooting across the airfield at the enemy on the other side. I could see them moving on the other side. And they finally got my range and shot my machine gun up, shot up my breech and everything, so I couldn't load it. And so I had to go back and get me another machine gun. But I just felt great in doing what I did. It was a great sacrifice, but it was good. It took 22 ships to take 3 Marine divisions to the island. When we had the island secured and they picked us up to leave, they used 8 ships. We left near 7,000 men on the island. It was costly for a little piece of volcanic ash that set out in the ocean. But it was great. It was great to see the first B-24 come in and land while we were still there fighting for the island. To see a big plane come in and land, it just gave us a great feeling. and to make us feel like we'd accomplished something, had it secured enough to where that plane could come in and land. And it was great when we secured Mount Suribachi and they raised the flag. It was good to see that flag flying up on top, but we still had a long way to go. But I was really, really fortunate, and I thank my Father in heaven for letting me survive. In fact, I prayed to him. I had never prayed before in my life. I wasn't even a member of the church, any church. I prayed that if he got me come off the island in one piece, I'd join his church. I didn't know what his church, which was his church, but I found out, and there I am. I joined the church, and I've been happy ever since.